you are commercial, as you all know, you pay a higher price in Cook County in terms of property tax. They also have a higher sales tax, so that helps us. That is a definite advantage for business in Lake County, particularly as you get, if someone's making a decision, and I worked in Arlington Heights for a few years in economic development, and tried to recruit someone into the very northern edge.
I said I would sign the contract, I'm this close to winning it. But I had to be creative, I had to, we cut down our profit margin, that's okay. But guess what? It's business.
But exactly, but that was a creative
Yeah,
on
so,
your part as an entrepreneur to do that.
but
Right?
why can't we do that here? To the point that you're making is little things, whatever, every little bit of effort is gonna go a long way.
Yeah. I think you could do that here, but I guess I'm struggling a little bit to see the role of government in doing that. I don't, what would you, very, frankly, what would you have us do?
I don't know how laws are made, or what's driving all that, is to take maybe short-term initiative, or at least help the local community here. Some of the contracts, again, I have no idea what's out there at the moment.
We are researching, as I said, and I should let Aaron jump in, but we are researching, because there was this discussion at the county board level about purchasing, in particular it had to do with ARRA, projects, and a lot of it, and you probably saw some of this in the press, because the VA was hit with some controversy too about who they were hiring, and they're constrained by certain rules and regulations also. So we are looking into, is there anything we can do to put a leg up for local businesses?
Yeah, a good example is there's a lot of changes coming out of the Navy base, naval base.
Mhm.
Right? They're
Yeah,
going to
that's
do
what.
construction.
I'll just add one point, and it might not be the most popular point. Certainly we want to invest, we want local businesses to be investing in our local economy. That's ideal. But the key thing, and that's incumbent upon Pat and I, is to be a steward of tax dollars. And so that's where the statutes were written to the point of accepting the lowest responsible bid, because in a micro sense, we need to invest in our local communities. Local businesses will thrive when local governments are providing them with opportunity. But in the macro sense, if we're not accepting that lowest responsible bidder, the general taxpayer loses out across the board. So it's something to consider. There are both advantages to the point of investing in local business, and also advantages in the idea of the lowest responsible bidder and how the statutes were written. And they weren't necessarily mutually exclusive either.
But when you are paying a Lake County business, aren't they returning some of those tax dollars back to you? And is that taken into the
is higher.
consideration?
And then they get tax money from other directions, so, that would be ideal.
I mean, it would be ideal to invest locally, but that is the point. But the amount of contracting that we do versus Cook County or Illinois or whatever, I think that in the end we have to work to promote local business, but also be cognizant of lowest responsible bidders. Because what would happen if Lake County business couldn't bid on Cook County projects? They obviously have a budget that is much larger than ours, and so there is a competitive advantage to going potentially to a neighboring county as well.
I'd like to interject, Kim. I think we've got some other questions here that I'd like to move on to them. I think Gary's got something back there.
It was just an adjunct, because I heard you say a very interesting qualifying word when you said early on, the lowest bidder. And the qualifier now was the lowest responsible bidder. And that qualifier is very important in my mind as I thought about it. In private industry that has probably more flexibility, they take a lot of elements into consideration, including minority-owned businesses, including small businesses, including a lot of factors, social responsibility, in addition to the lowest price. Because sometimes when you take the lowest price, you get what you pay for. So, and I realize the constraints legislatively, but if it's the lowest responsible bidder, could not the county interpret that to favor local business, as long as they were responsible?
So the question is the responsibility of the people that are bidding for the project.
Yeah,
Aaron, would you like to address that
could you
first?
expand on that qualifying statement, and could that not lead the county to do something for small and local businesses?
You know, we're looking into that. It's been my experience, and I haven't seen a bid sheet in the way that in the detail that I saw when I was on a library board for 6 years, but the various criteria of the job, you know, will the person enact a prevailing wage? Did they have good references? It was things like that that were factored into, were they responsive, were they responsible? You know, had they defaulted on something? It wasn't, you know, looking at some of these kind of other, you know, ideas that you brought up, which, you know, potentially have merit. So we're looking into it, but in my experience,
You know, Lake County citizens who own businesses in Cook County, and we do, I'm sure, you know, Lake County citizens who work in Kenosha. So when, you know, so it all kind of blurs in terms of advantages. So if we say we're only gonna do business with, you know, businesses in Lake County, you know, there'll be residents who say, well, hey, you know, my business is just over the border.
That's not black and white, you just.
Right,
you don't say
exactly.
only, and that's what you say.
Right.
Look, there are depressed communities
Absolutely.
in the county of Lake.
mhm.
And if those people live in Cook County and their business is in Lake, when they pay taxes
Taxes
based
in
on the
Lake.
business, not
Right.
where they live.
Right, right.
So-
And you know, to that point, after this conversation came up, our county administrator did do a memo for our board members, and we spend, it was a very large, tens of millions of dollars in county funds for purchasing, contracting in Waukegan alone. You talk about, you know, the depressed areas of the county, and so, you know, I can't quote numbers specifically, but I would venture to bet that there is a much higher percentage of county funds expended in places like, you know, Waukegan than there are in, you know, Lake Zurich or Hawthorne Woods or you know, things like that. So I could get you those facts hopefully, but, you know, it was an interesting data
I'm gonna
point.
take a minute to close this discussion. We have one more question we'd like to ask. However, let me say, I used to belong to a country club in Kenosha County. You don't get a job in Kenosha County unless you are a union shop. I know as the moderator, I'm not supposed to interface here at all, but the truth is, to some extent, we're blessed to be in Lake County where those kinds of things happen, right? Okay.
Part of the problems I see is the performance bond that's put up for a small company, and as well as how get paid.
Lowest price, you get what you pay for. If it's the lowest responsible bidder, could not